Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Evan again with another video that I hope is a blessing to you on your walk with the Lord. And with this video, I'm going to start doing something a little bit different, at least for this week. I'm going to do a 3-part series on things I've learned in the storm. So in the future, I may do series like this again on things if there's more than one topic that comes up in them, but we'll see what happens with all that. But specifically in this video about the storm, I want to talk about how I would define a storm, or at least in my life personally, and I'd love to hear what you all think, but also where storms come from. So what is a storm? I believe a storm is when uncertain circumstances invade familiar places. And the place the Lord really showed me this was on the boat when the disciples went to wake Christ up. So I was really reading through and I was trying to see if it said specifically who went to wake Christ up, but it says they went to wake him up. And it hit me that some of these men were actually fishermen, so they had to have been used to being on a boat and probably being in somewhat choppy water, maybe even enduring a storm or getting caught in a storm on a boat before. But for the storm to be so bad in a place that they were very familiar, the storm had to be pretty bad. I think that's what happens in our lives. Just like right now in the Midwest with all the storms, wherever it is with all the storms, even though you may feel safe in your house, a very familiar place, the circumstances outside might be uncertain, and so now all of a sudden things start to be shaken. And I believe that's what happens in our spiritual lives when we go through storms. Things start to get shaken loose, and we start to see where we need our faith to grow and where we need the Lord to do more work. And so storms aren't necessarily a bad place at all, but they definitely can be an uncomfortable place. So where do storms come from? I got 4 ideas I want to share with you, and by no means do I think they're all of them, but they're just 4 places the Lord has shown me that storms come from. And the first 3 are from Matthew 7:27, where it says the rainwater fell, the wind blew, and the water rose. And I heard a pastor say one time that this is actually describing where storms come from, that sometimes the Lord himself comes against you. And I think of David when he took the census, and Moses when he didn't circumcise his sons. But then you also have the storms come from around you, which would be people, which we really see in Jonah's case, because the people let Jonah on the boat, but they didn't really know why he was going on his mission. If they knew he was running from God, they might not have let him go with them. At least in our lives we shouldn't. Because those people that we let in our lives that are running from the things of God can bring storms into our lives. And I love Jonah because it shows that even us godly people, when we're not being obedient to God, we can bring some hard things in other people's lives. And it's just a reminder that we're no better than anybody, which we all know. And then in this passage, the last thing is that it can come from below, which I believe is Satan. And a great example of this is Job, because the Lord gave Satan authority over certain parts of Job's life. And I say this right now because I just want to say that all the storms we go through in our lives are filtered through the love of God. And even though they might seem difficult, it says that he'll never put more on us than we can bear. So knowing that, it doesn't always make the storm easier, but it should make it a little bit easier to at least take the next step in the moment that you're in right now to continue to press forward for whatever it is that he's trying to show you. And then the last thing is what I actually learned in the chapter of Luke 15, where it's just broken fellowship. You have the sheep that left the fellowship of the herd and the shepherd. Then you have the prodigal son who left his family to spend his money. And then you have the woman with the 10 coins. And I heard a story that explained that, is that in the Hebrew culture, the women, when they would get married, would actually be given kind of like a crown, I guess, or something like that, with 10 coins on it. And it was the same significance as a wedding ring to us now. And so it's actually alluding to a broken fellowship between a bride and a husband, which I think with us and God, us being the bride and him the groom, is something that can cause a storm, or at least it makes it so now the storms that we didn't recognize before the Lord's grace and mercy was keeping us from now start to bother us because we've stepped out of that fellowship or we've lost the coin. But in all these things, I think the great thing is that when you know where the storm is coming from, it kind of gives you a way of dealing with it. Like if it's broken fellowship, now you can start to restore that fellowship. You can start to spend time again, right? Just like any relationship, you can start to spend time with the Lord again. If it's coming from Satan, we know from Job to not grumble with people that just want to sit around and grumble, to seek the Lord and be around godly people and find out what the Lord is trying to show you in this time. If it's coming from around you, like Jonah, man, maybe it's time to throw some people from the boat. I'm not saying just any person that's ungodly, but people that God is clearly showing you don't have a place in your life and are bringing storms into your life. Storms that, you know, in that book, they had to throw everything off the boat. If that's what's happening, then maybe it's time to let some people or some things go, because it's a storm that's unnecessary and easily dealt with. And then when it's coming from God with Moses and David, we see with David, with the census, he went and quickly made an altar that cost him something, and Moses' wife quickly circumcised their sons. And that quenched the fury of God, or the wrath of God, whatever term you want to put in there. And so, yeah, that's the end of the first video on the storms, of where, what I believe storms are and where storms come from. And I'd love to hear your input on all this. This week, the next two videos will be coming out. One is on how to thrive in the storm. The other one is what we have with us in the middle of the storm. And so, I just ask that you just share something with somebody today. Not just something, but share. Maybe it's sharing how you've gotten through a storm, or seeing somebody that's in the midst of a storm in their life. Go and just mentor them a little bit, or pour into them a little bit, and just show them some love. Also, I humbly ask that you share this video with more people. I love you all very much. I'll see you next time. Peace.